So we're back then with another build guide video for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. This is a build guide video with a difference because rather than looking at one build we will be looking at three, and these are specifically builds that are completely broken at the moment. Now the reason I'm showing these off is the most recent hotfix for the game had quite a lot of nerfs that I feel went too far in one direction, so this is a video to help you get your OP builds back until inevitably they are nerfed and have a bit of fun smashing your way through your chaos chambers with them. So it's 3 different builds we'll be looking at in total. Before we jump in and start breaking them down, if the video is helpful, please do take the time to hit the like, share, subscribe button, and leaving a comment below is really helpful as well. Feel free to leave a comment below in regards to an OP or busted build you may be running at the moment, and if this video does well, I'll look to create a series out of this. But let's dive in and let's start breaking these builds down. So the first broken build we're looking at here is one that I would say is most definitely bugged, so if you want to do this, you want to do it as soon as you can. It'll probably be fixed with the next major patch. In the first instance to run this, you'll need to have the spell shot as one of your 2 classes. You want to use Ambihextrous as your active skill. If you look at the item that actually causes the bug here, it's known as the Buffmeister. It's a legendary spell, it's a random world drop. When this is in your left hand, it just acts as a buff for your abilities. It's actually pretty decent. Now if you place this in your right hand, and I'll actually show some gameplay footage of it in your left hand and your right hand, but if you place it in your right hand, some strange mechanic goes on with the game and the damage numbers go absolutely through the roof. You'll see in a second once we show off the gameplay the difference between the two, but that's it. That's the first broken build. Really nice and simple to run. Go the spell shot, use Ambihextrous, and have your Buffmeister legendary, which again is just a random legendary world drop, but it seems to be a common one. Have it in your right hand rather than your left hand. But let me show you some gameplay of this. Firstly, I'll show you the gameplay with it in your left hand. So that was it in the left hand. Admittedly I wasn't using shock, which you should be using because they've got a shield, but I'll be using the same weapon for both of these. So let me show you the difference when you've actually got the Buffmeister in your right hand. So there you go, you can see the difference in damage numbers was really pretty insane with that. That, without a doubt, as I mentioned, is bugged, so it'll probably be fixed in the near future. But let's have a look at the next build. So the next build we have here is a companion based one. It's another one that without a doubt is actually bugged at the moment, but with it your Demi-Lich companion can near enough one-shot bosses. Takes a while to ramp up, so that's the reason I don't have gameplay footage of it myself, but I'll explain how this actually works. You would need to be the Spore Warden and the Graveborn class. Now with the Graveborn class you must put your points into Faithful Thralls. So with this the Fate Maker deals increased damage dealt for every companion she has. Currently I'm 5 out of 3 on it, meaning I get a pretty decent 15% per companion. Now the base number of companions you have is 2, of course it's your Mushroom and your Demi-Lich. Through your skills and your spells and so on, you might be able to get it up to around about 10 or so, which is a decent damage multiplier. However, the way this is actually bugged at the moment is every time you finish a Chaos Room run, you get to the treasure room at the end, a copy of your Mushroom companion is actually saved there for some bizarre reason. Now when you go back to your main screen, you'll see down the bottom where it normally says you've got 2 companions, you actually have 3 companions. Every time you finish a Chaos Chamber, it'll add another Mushroom companion. They won't be there, you won't actually see them on screen or anything like that, but they will be adding to your multiplier. So if you're going to sit down and if you're going to farm Chaos Chambers for a day or so on, this is a particular run you want to get, because every time you complete a run you're getting an additional 15% damage multiplier, and once you do 10-20 runs, that's in the region of about 300% additional damage you're getting, and that's where you'll get to the point where your Demi-Lich companion will actually be one-shotting bosses. So that's that setup. Without a doubt that is one that is bugged and it will be fixed at a later date, but if you want to make use of it for now, that's how you actually do it. So let's have a look at the next build. So the next build we have here is a spin to win whirlwind build. It's all about abusing damage multipliers. With this, I'm honestly not sure if it's working as intended, but the damage you get on it is completely insane and you can melt bosses in seconds. I will say though, it's quite a niche build, very situational, and you'll find that your damage numbers will go up and down during this. Now this particular build, a detailed breakdown of it was done by Moxie, and I'll put a link to that particular video in the description below, but I'll very quickly break it down here for you as well. So as mentioned, it's spin to win this particular build. So firstly, you're going to be using the Dreadwind ability. Now next up, this is exceptionally important for the build here, you're using Blast Chill. This I believe is what causes the damage on your Whirlwind to actually multiply, and it multiplies consecutively. It keeps adding on to itself, so the damage numbers you get the longer you're channeling this are actually larger, and it's pretty insane some of the damage numbers you will be seeing with this. One other skill that's actually really relevant here is Wrath of Nature. That's increasing your ability damage. I believe that possibly also multiplies as well. But that is the most important elements of the skills to point out. So let me actually show you the gear you want to use for this, and then I'll finish up the video showing some gameplay footage of me melting a boss, and we do literally melt them. But let's check out the gear. In regards to the ranged weapon you're using, I know the liquid cooling has had a major nerf, but the reason I'm using this at the moment, it still does decent damage, but it's got 25% additional melee damage in it. So when you're looking for a gun you're using, look for one that has melee damage in it as well. In regards to the melee weapon, the way the damage from your Whirlwind scales, it's based off your attack damage, not your attack speed. So basically just go for one that's got the highest attack damage on it. Ideally you would get the frost element on it as well. In regards to enchantments, you really want to keep rolling until you get this one. This is a Berserker specific enchantment, so gain 50% damage when using Feral Surge or Dreadwind against bosses and badasses, and I believe this stacks every time you're doing your Whirlwind. You get a melee hit and then you get the Frost Nova, and it'll stack and multiply again and again and again, which is why your damage numbers keep going up. Now in regards to other enchantments you're looking for, ideally you're looking for global damage enchantments, because again I don't really understand the mechanics. This one Mox explains it a lot better, but it's to do with how the damage actually double dips the way the skill is set out. Now gear wise as well, you're going to look for rings that have got melee on them, of course, so I've got that there. My gear isn't optimised at all, I will say that. In regards to the shield you want to use, this is a specific one you want to use. We'll see with this one, when ward is depleted you gain 17% damage reduction and gain 100% increased damage dealt to nearby enemies, so that's the reason we're using that there. We've then got this gear piece. It doesn't really work for my build with the exception of the special text at the bottom. So ability damage and spell damage are increased by 50% of your increased melee damage. That makes your Whirlwind hit even harder. We're using the Buffmeister spell here. We're using the one that's got Bonk and Kachow. That increases your melee damage and your ability damage, so that's perfect for this setup. And then the necklace I'm using is just a random one. It's not even really optimised that much for the build. But that's the actual gear that I'm using there. Even though my gear isn't optimised, you'll see in a second I do melt this boss. Now I'm still working on this character, so I'm only up to Chaos level 5, but you can see we absolutely destroy them in seconds, so I have no doubt at all that as we went up the Chaos levels we would destroy the other bosses. But just bear in mind this is a very situational build. So we'll finish up then with some quick footage of this build in action. So enjoy this and thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.